Yeah, it'll be really great to have something that actually works. Now, of course, we're talking about censorship resistant type stuff. Oh,
Hmm.
YouTube says it's working now. Let's see if it is. Of course, we're talking censorship resistant type stuff. And that always means it's like slower and older technology usually. It's not like up to speed. And yeah. So I'm not really trusting that that kind of stuff is going to keep working forever or it's going to be working consistently, which is why I kind of like the centralized backup, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
However, when the centralized backup doesn't work, that's the thing is like I never got anyone to follow me on D Live. Twitter videos, like just people aren't really doing that. So, okay.
Really? DLive is a huge, like, has
Yeah,
been
I haven't
growing like
gotten anything.
crazy.
Well, it does appear that we are live, actually live. Hey
Okay.
guys, this has been a tumultuous time. I'm going to explain for a second. Let me hit the intro thing and we'll go. So, hey everyone. Woo! That was rough. What is it? Almost half an hour past the usual time. I know I'm usually late, but not usually this much. There was a series of technical difficulties, foremost among those being YouTube just wasn't working. It just was not syncing. And now that I see, oh, I have 4 people in the live chat, it looks great. So, first, I'd like to welcome my awesome guest, Nicole. How's it going, Nicole? Your
Hey,
Nerd
it's great.
Girl 007, was that it?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. At least I got it right on the first guess. Sometimes it's people have like Elite Hacksaw or some weird thing like that. I'm pretty easy to remember, the Desert Lynx, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm the Desert Linux, as I've been called before. But I am using Linux. But so before we get started and all this kind of stuff, I just like to remind everyone to please hit the like button right away and subscribe. I'm at 921 subscribers on YouTube, where you're likely watching this. You could be watching on Facebook or Twitter as well. And as soon as Library does their public streaming thingy, then it'll be on there and I'll be shilling that thing out. But also, there's this Crypto Live Super Chat. If you go to cointr.ee/the Desert Lakes, as you can see right there, you just go there and you can leave a message with a donation, and that will just show up in this little yellow box down here. And then I'll be able to read it live on air, and that'll be a really awesome thing. So if I'm ignoring you in the live chat, I might be trying to send you a hint that, it's time to cough up a little bit. So, with that being said, we were just talking about a lot of things, but especially we're talking about the stream and that YouTube. Before I had Bob Carroll, the CTO of the Dash Core team, on a few months back, and like the whole Dash community was like waiting to see like development updates and stuff, and then it just didn't work on YouTube, so I had to tell everyone to go watch it on Facebook instead. And I can't wait until Library, LBRY, my primary platform, which is actually decentralized, to start doing live streaming. And they did a live streaming test with a few people not too long ago, like this week or something. And I'm over the moon about it. I really hope I get in on that action too, because YouTube's always going to suck. And I want to get out of that stuff. So I don't know. Are you much of a Library user?
No, I'm really not. I've only used it a couple of times and then I've had some like glitches on my computer where I can't upload a video that's,
Hmm.
a certain length or I've struggled with it. And I'm also really terrible about posting on YouTube and like I'm only really good about Twitter. And I need to get better at multicasting and building on multiple platforms. And then this is something that we were talking about kind of briefly. I'm kind of surprised that you're not. I mean, if you're using Restream, why not stream to DLive too? I know you said that you're just not growing there, but the platform is growing. There's a lot of people using it. I think maybe if you had someone from Hex on, you would get a huge DLive
I
thing.
could.
Yeah.
This is actually live on DLive right now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I don't, and according to the stats, again, I don't like to do the man behind the curtain stuff right now, but I have one person watching on Facebook, 3 on Periscope, 6 on YouTube, which is usually the heavy hitter. It will end up going into the 20s or something, and 0 on DLive. So
Hmm.
it's always 0 on DLive. To be fair, I haven't put a lot into growing the thing, but I don't know. It's just that it doesn't persist. The content doesn't persist. It's one and done, and so I don't
Yeah,
know.
unless you get, I think you have to have like 200 subscribers or something, and then you can have your content save itself.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of bullshit, but whatever. I'm here not here to talk trash about DLive, but it'll be really great when LBRY starts to do this. I don't actually technically know how you can live stream to a blockchain in a decentralized way. I think you gotta sort of do like you gotta like run it on their centralized sites like Odyssey, and then
Mhm.
just like auto put it into your channel when it's done. I think that's the way they're gonna have to do it for now. Which I'm not assuming, because if they could do it in a decentralized way, that would be awesome. I don't know how they would. There might be a way of using their decentralized server network to host it and all things like that. Again, I don't know. I'm nowhere near technical enough to get to that point. So someone comment, man behind the
Intended.
curtain. Yeah, someone gets their Wizard of Oz references. Yeah, we definitely ain't in Kansas anymore. That's for damn sure. So
Yeah.
speaking of things that are crazy, you know, Craig fucking Wright,
Yeah.
the also known as Aussie Man Bad. So Aussie Man has once again been bad, which is, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, let me put it this way: I am not optimistic about politics in the slightest. I am, however, relieved just from a attention span point of view that we won't have to hear anything about Orange Man Bad anymore. That just like we get to just not care. Well, I didn't care anyway, but now we have to just really not care. And Craig Wright is one of those people that just, the gift that keeps on giving. So essentially, for people who have not paid attention, Craig Wright sued or threatened to sue the Bitcoin Core contributors for hosting the Bitcoin white paper on Bitcoin.org. And they freaked out and quickly merged a pull request in a couple of hours to get rid of it and take it down. And then a bunch of people in the greater crypto community have, I mean, nothing brings together a community like hating on Craig Wright, as it turns out. And
Yeah.
it just, everyone kind of banded together. Everyone's hosting a copy of the Bitcoin white paper everywhere and kind of like collectively doing their middle finger at him. So, what's your hot take on this first?
Yeah, so actually, we were talking about this kind of just before the show, and I think that Bitcoin.org refused to take it down. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I've got like in this article, this Coindesk article right here. It says, we will
Mm-hmm.
continue hosting the Bitcoin white paper and won't be silenced or intimidated. Others hosting the white paper should follow our lead in resisting these false allegations. That
Mm-hmm.
was from Bitcoin.org. And then there was, a subsidiary company, where is it? BitcoinCore.org did remove it and deleted the changes, merged on GitHub. But yeah, I guess Bitcoin.org refused to remove it. I don't understand how. I understand that he filed for the copyright and that the copyright was granted to him, but actually threatening to sue over the white paper being on, I don't see how he could possibly win. And then also he's consistently losing these court cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been some mixed results where like they've given continuations, but it's not like the courts have been favorable to him overall. So why continue spending this money to go through these legal troubles? I don't understand. I really need to talk to Craig again, and I haven't been on top of, doing
Yeah.
that. I need to.
Yeah, well, hopefully he doesn't watch this and be like, not talking to you ever again, or whatever. But
Well, I didn't say anything bad about him, but
not
that
yet.
was how he
That's
was
coming.
after our first meeting. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything negative about him, except for that he's like all of the, people with lots of opposition. Like everyone, it seems like in crypto, who a lot of people dislike, have this, pompous, they're just kind of jerky sometimes. And I assume that some of that is defensive from having to defend themselves constantly from
Yeah.
hacks.
Um, I would definitely say that that's the case in specifically people like Roger Ver, and Roger's a good friend of mine. I really like the dude, and I wish I have seen, if you ever watch any of the interviews we've done on this channel, you kind of see a
Yeah.
much like softer side of him, where he's like
He's
some,
never,
yeah, he's a teddy bear. He's a nice dude. He just
he's
like,
never been like, I mean, he has been in a message, but he's never really been like,
yeah,
he's like, he flips out sometimes and it's a defense mechanism. I
yeah.
get it. Like Richard Hart is the same way, it's kind of like that.
Now is the difference with Craig Wright. This is where it gets interesting. Is uh, you could say like we'll get into the whole Hex thing at some point, but like you could say that Hex is just doing it so you could disagree or think it's like not good, but it's trying to do its own thing. And people don't like Roger because he's saying Bitcoin should be this way, and he's sort of attacking BTC as it is today. And like they don't, because of those polarization things, that there's a couple things though that, but you could, it's like a matter of disagreement, right? People could say like, no, Roger's absolutely correct, this is the true Bitcoin, this one doesn't really qualify anymore, I don't care if it has more market cap. Or you can just say, oh, he's muddling the waters, he should call his own project something else. You could disagree. The problem with Craig Wright is he entered some interesting territory in a couple big ways. First off, he says he is Satoshi, and he has not been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he is that to a lot of people, most people, in fact. And Satoshi was a pseudonymous, anonymous, whatever you want to call, person for, I guess, a good reason that now he's trying, like, it's okay to come out and say, yeah, I'm Satoshi. Oh, no, you aren't. Okay, whatever. Believe me or not, I don't care. But you're going really hard towards claiming he is when if he was Satoshi, he would, why go so hard to hide it and then be like so hard to prove it? It's a little sketchy. That part's a little sketchy. And the other part is just the lawsuits. It's just trying to like hurt people in a material ways for like mean things they say on Twitter. Like that's something that I don't know if it's entirely defensible, you know?
Going after cartoon astronaut cats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that might be, yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand why he's going to continue spending, so much on his legal fees, which is really strange. The time that I interviewed him after the cameras went turned off, he told me that the biggest mistake that he ever made was fighting the Australian government over money that he owed them for taxes, and that he ended up spending more in the legal fees than he saved from not from I want to say not paying his taxes, but from whatever the ordeal was.
For
And it seems
resisting
like
extortion.
yeah, was
Yeah.
it? I don't know.
Well,
I don't think so.
that's what I call it at least. I mean, they're trying to
Okay.
extort him for more money. I mean, I think that,
Yeah, yeah. So he spent more trying, defending himself. He ended up winning, but he spent more in the defense than he would have if he had just paid them. And he said that he told me that that was his biggest mistake.
yeah, which is a very, either he's full of it and saying it was his biggest mistake and he's trying to do other unprofitable legal proceedings for other reasons that are not profit based, or if he actually did learn his lesson, there's a profit motive to all of these legal proceedings. Possibly, there's a couple things he could be doing. First off, it is very interesting to see in the context of the project itself of Bitcoin SV. Its whole thing, like that's the thing about Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is like we're the real spirit of Bitcoin, but they don't say we're the original BTC. They're just like we split off because the original BTC became corrupted. That's kind of the thing. It's a different mentality. Whereas SV is like, well, we split off from the admitted split off, but we're the original, which is a little circular logic I'm not going to really buy into, but it's at least it's hard to like it's hard into we are the original Bitcoin, and you can't have that with original Bitcoin out there. Maybe SegWit tainted or whatever, but still like original Bitcoin, right? And so I think a lot of this is using intimidation because a lot of people get scared about lawsuits, and you can't just like not contest it. Like you kind of can lose by default, even if you're right. You have to
Yeah,
engage. Yeah. So when you have all these things, a lot of people are gonna get scared because let's be honest, they don't want to go to jail, lose all their money, and they don't know what to do. and so they just back off. Like the Bitcoin Core developers, like I have to say, I don't know in terms of like marketing and PR. He already recouped his money tenfold probably from this latest white paper thing just to get the Bitcoin Core team, i.e., like the custodians of Bitcoin itself, to just like, no, 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 it's okay, you're Satoshi kind of thing. Not even that that's not what they did, but from that point, it's kind of a genius move now.
Yeah, no, I mean, he definitely has made a lot of really brilliant strategic moves. That's not really arguable, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I guess you're right. But if he continues if this lawsuit continues, right, and he
Hmm.
actually goes through the process of trying to take this to court, I don't see how he could possibly win. And it's got to be, I guess it's probably just lumped in with all of the other legal fees.
Yeah, he probably got like a package deal on his like his lawyer stuff. He just like, you know what? I'm just gonna like pay you like several million in BSV right now, and then you get to represent me for now. It's like insurance, except now he's like, you know what? I'm gonna drum up all cases to kind of like how much is he really losing of his net worth in every failed case where he has to go pay the opposition's legal fees? Not
That's a great question. I don't
not a
know the answer.
lot. Like I
Not a
don't.
lot.
I'm sure it's a lot by like you and me standards, but like by whatever he has, it's just not that much money, and he can just keep doing it. And the ultimate thing, I was actually doing a video today that I didn't end up finishing uploading, but about older projects, like older cryptocurrencies, and how they lose out on the hype cycle over time. They go through a hype cycle, and then it's just really hard to get attention back on the project unless you're just like Bitcoin or Ethereum, always in the spotlight. And so you have to like claw it back through like pure innovation and stuff like that. And so BSV comes out, oh, real Bitcoin, oh, this and that. And all right, people get excited. And then now it starts like a couple years in. Now it's like all those projects, yeah, they're fine. There's some really cool stuff being built on BSV, but then people don't really pay attention. And then it's like, all right, we got to get back in the news cycle. Craig Wright, who are you going to sue now? So then he sues someone. Everyone's like, oh, I remember that bastard now. And everyone all pays attention. And then some people are like, wow, he's winning. Or even if he hasn't won, right? He's like winning. He's like, he got them to back off. And then you get new people coming in being like, oh, wow. And they got all this stuff going on. This is great. I'm going to buy the coin. And then it goes back into the thing. I think the lawsuits are a purely marketing strategy, if you ask me.
Huh. I had never really considered it that way, but you're probably right. And you're right about getting back into the media and then people sort of, new people kind of looking at it because they've just heard of it and, whatever that gets the project some, yeah, you're definitely right. And speaking of, Craig and earlier with like, I think, so this is something that I've never said. I think the really biggest difference between like, I don't know, with the Bitcoin example, Craig and Roger, for example, is like Roger's like Bitcoin Jesus, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Craig is basically claiming that he's God, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like full blown blasphemy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like people call him Bitcoin Judas, and it's pretty funny because no, like Judas did nothing remarkable as far as like the historical or biblical, whatever you want to call it, Judas. He just was one of the guys, you know? And then he just did such a dick move that everyone knows that guy. And it's like that's kind of the same thing. It's just like BSV's doing, nothing remarkable. Yeah, so many BSV people are going to be all rage tweeting and stuff about it. But like I'm saying, it doesn't mean nothing cool, but nothing remarkable. This whole space is cool. And then all of a sudden you just got to start stabbing people in the back, and oh, history will remember your name now, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess if the game is leave a legacy, they've been pretty successful with those tactics.
Yeah, what is it? Say what you want about me, but at least spell my name right.
Yeah,
It's probably one of those things, and they do spell right, which is kind of funny.
yeah.
And in the live chat, Nico says, "What happened to the bonded courier story?" People forgot about it. I think it just didn't happen, and then there you go. Kind of like a lot of stuff, which the last little current event thingy I'll throw into that is just like the last few months since the US election with all the, oh, but the stop the steal, and then QAnon says this, and oh, there's going to be this, and just wait, they're coming to arrest Pelosi and all this stuff. Like, all this stuff, just you wait, and just like constantly, like, what happened to those? There's not like a bunch of people saying, you know what, guys, we told you this, but we were wrong. We really thought this was going to happen. Sorry, we're wrong. No, they're just like, well, and moving the goalposts, and that's the same thing. It's like no one's like, you know, it's a, I hate to say it's like a con, but it kind of is. Like, is Craig Wright Satoshi? I don't know, and I don't really care. I'm thinking no, but he could be, and I don't necessarily care. Is BSV the original Bitcoin in any kind of way? I don't really care, or no, but it could be. That's not what I'm saying is a con. But the whole lawsuit and claims, oh, you're going to find out in a month, that is kind of a con. He's approaching it through a con artist sort of a way that could just be like, oh, clever marketing tactics by, you know, the real Satoshi to like, that's what it took to get the job done. It could be, but I still see it as a con in the interim, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
price
I think you're
dumps.
Yeah.
Last time to buy Bitcoin under, let me check. What is it now? Is it 31, 32? Oh, up 33. Wow. Back up. It was one of those things where people are saying like, this is it. Bitcoin will never go under X again, and then it just does. Like, went up to
Yeah.
what, 41,000 or something?
42.
42.
42. Yeah.
And it went down to 28. So that's what, like 14 out of 42 it lost. I mean, come on. We're still new in the game. It's still going up. It's still going down. It's still doing all that stuff.
Yeah. So that market dump was like somewhat of a reaction to a couple of different pieces of bad news, right? And one of them was Janet Yellen talking about the possibility for taxing unrealized gains, which
That's like,
I don't know how that's, I don't understand. Like, I haven't really wrapped my head around how that's even possible right now. I mean, I've, been reading about it a little bit, and I'm seeing people say it is in fact possible, but I don't know. I mean, so then what? Can you also deduct unrealized losses? Because
yeah.
I don't know.
I think it would have to work both ways if they're doing that. Deducting, like tax on unrealized gains is kind of like taxing on Craig Wright's promises. It's just like he promises to have Satoshi's hoard, and you're like, want 10% of that. And it's just like, well, he didn't get it. I don't care what the bonded courier thing was. And it's like, well, too bad. We still want 10% of that thing. Oh my goodness. It's like, I don't know how realistic that is, but like, no way are people ever going to go through with that.
You don't think so?
No.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's possible. Like, did you think that it was possible in 2017 for them to decide that they were going to tax crypto, that each crypto to crypto trade was going to be a taxable event? Because that was kind of surprising to me too. That should be a like-kind asset since it's been ruled as a commodity. But
yeah, I think the whole place is in price discovery mode and regulatory discovery mode. And so it's one of those things like, what is the government going to do? Some of it is not predictable because you don't know how it's going to shake out. What is predictable is that they will do awful things. The other thing is that they will do, at least in established, developed countries, they will do things that they know they can get away with. And so that's the big secret with like regulation is they tell you this is the way it's going to be. But really, what they're thinking is this is the way it's going to be, and we're assuming a certain amount of compliance for it to work. And so if you like, why not just tax like 80-90% on all the billionaires in the world or in the country? Just take 90% of all their stuff, confiscate it. They would never do that because they can't. They wouldn't get any money from that. Those people would find a way out. They'd stall things. They'd hide their money. They'd take off, or and then People threaten
Those are
to
the
pull
people
out.
who write the laws or who pay the people who write the laws. So
Yeah,
it's not ever
exactly.
to affect them.
Yeah. So I like, for example, that every single you have to do capital gains on every single purchase with cryptocurrency. I don't think that's going to last, to be honest, because
Yeah.
how many what there's almost no one uses crypto to begin with. I mean, it's like me and like two other guys, but as far as like buying stuff, but
I'm one of those guys,
yes,
Joel.
but like how many of these people do you think are calculating capital gains every time they make a small purchase on every cup of coffee? Like it's pretty and so that's why there's been laws floated through or amendments that have basically put like a 10 like an under $1,000 like under or I forget what the different levels were proposed. But basically, under a certain amount, you don't have to even worry about that.
It was $600, but I don't know if it passed.
I don't think it did, from my recollection. But it
Uh,
again, when you're trying to say you have to pay on this, it costs you nothing to say that. But then you get some people who are like really nervous and are like, okay, I'm going to calculate all this stuff, and you get some money out of it. But at some point, when everyone's using crypto and like 1% are paying capital gains on everyday purchases, then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do exemption for this, but if it's higher than that, we have to do it. Or they're going to figure out something else that lets them actually get compliance because compliance gets them money, you know? It's a little game that you got to play where if you push too hard and make it too unreasonable, people just aren't going to do it. And so you have to make it reasonable enough that you can still extract resources from the people. I mean, it's a very kind of clever game, which is kind of why, from my understanding, FinCEN's new proposed regulations making people do all this KYC nonsense for withdrawing like 3,000 to or 10,000 or whatever it was to outside the exchange. That's why that got pushed back from what I heard. Again, I haven't done my research. This is not a do your research show. This is a jackass saying what he wants show. So don't get
all right, awesome. So can I be a jackass and say
Yes.
something then?
Yes.
All right, awesome.
You can try.
So one thing that I've wondered about is like, so Janet Yellen saying that they could tax unrealized gains. Would that really kind of make cryptocurrency money? Because if you can tax it, then it's money, right? And then I wonder if that, would bring more regulations in terms of like how it, in terms of taxation on individual purchases.
That would open up a whole new can of worms. Ultimately, and I've made this argument before, ultimately, regulation's going to have to wait for the real world to shake out and then figure out how it fits around that. It's like, for example, I'm sure you remember the whole like file sharing boom of whatever decade that was. They fly by so fast. But it just everyone started torrenting, everyone started, doing Napster, and just all of a sudden everyone's profit model just got in the music industry just went kaboom, and people started getting sued, but then they couldn't find, and everyone is still, you're a federal prison, blah blah blah. Everyone's still stealing music online, everyone's still doing whatever. And finally they're just like, I don't know how much the regulations have changed regarding piracy and stuff. However, now it just moved into, okay, you can watch whatever you want, but just pay $5 a month for Netflix, whatever it was. And then people are like, I'd rather do Netflix or Spotify than like, download BitTorrent anyway. And so it just kind of moved to their reality set in despite regulations. And so I think it's going to be one of those things with crypto in general, where people are going to do what they want. And eventually the government's going to figure out a way that they can extract the most money from people doing their thing. So they're going to mold their regulation around reality. Of course, not right away, but with such a emerging industry like crypto with so few regulations, that's when I think you're going to have some chance for that to happen. It's not like, cannabis, drugs have been illegal forever, and it takes like 100 years. I don't know how many years it's been. It takes forever to like re-legalize marijuana and things like that. I think it'll be a lot. We won't have that problem with crypto to the same extent.
You don't think so? So is there any part of you that still thinks that the, government and larger system is going to kind of crash and burn?
Yes, but I don't think it's going to be the same dramatic. I don't think it's going to be the same dramatic thing that people, imagine. It's just like when people think like, people always have these unrealistic promised land kind of expectations of anything good, right? It's like, I'm going to like once I'm gonna run my own business. I'm gonna have to listen to everyone. I'm gonna do my, and then all of a sudden reality sets in that not only is it a lot of work to do your own business and not a lot of money until later, but then you're gonna be like, you're going to have to watch what you say online, not because you have a boss that can fire you, because it could hurt your business. You got to just keep it all under control. And eventually, when you have a lot of money, you're going to be older, and you're also going to not like care about yachts and things like that anymore. And so it's like the picture people have in their minds is very different from what's actually going to happen. So I do think that the fiat currency system is going to end at some point. And if you notice, all these nation states are talking about, or central banks are talking about their own central bank cryptos or whatever, their centralized coins already, which is kind of crazy how quickly that happened. That people started like, oh, let's abandon the old system even when we haven't even validated the new one yet. So that's definitely going to happen. But I think that what governments are going to just like conveniently jump into the new system and just like not talk about the fact that the old one just crashed. And also, I think the governments are going to start owning big pieces of, validator nodes, miner infrastructure, of supplies of currencies and stuff like that. So they're going to, and they're just going to tax people on their profits and stuff from this stuff. And they're just going to continue going on. And I do think that the overall size and scope of government is going to go down as a percentage over time as the decentralized tech starts to come up. That's what I predict. But it's not like, the new government never going to let go of power, right? But government isn't just one person, one entity. It's like a revolving door of people and institutions. And as like the old ones go away, the new ones, they get all the power that's available, and they're happy because even though they have less of a total share of the power than the previous administration or whatever, and eventually I think it'll be a smaller kind of a thing that's, that's doing that stuff. Maybe I'm just an optimist. But then again, why would I be in crypto if I wasn't an optimist? And if, why wouldn't I be an optimist if I'm in crypto?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess isn't there a lot of pessimism in people who are in crypto because they're afraid of the failing fiat system?
Yeah, that's the thing, is I'm not afraid of it. I accepted from, I think I was like 14 or 15 or 16 or something like that when I like realize that it's a scam. Like I just learned about inflation and like how it used to be backed by gold and it's not anymore. And I just like, wow, you mean you could buy this with this amount back then? It's like, so fiat's been dead to me for like 16 years already or so. So it's just, what else you got to look forward to,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I hope that it's still easiest to transact in cash.
Yeah, I guess. Because if it's in person, you have the right denominations and, that works pretty well. I do spend crypto on a pretty much daily basis. And where I do, it is really easy. And I've like watched people ahead of me go pay with a card, and I've timed it, and it's like twice as fast to do crypto sometimes at some of these new point of sale things. And it's I could see how even in this underdeveloped stage, crypto is going to be huge. Like it's going to be the thing that everyone ends up using. So
sure, when older generations of people die off, but for that's like
yeah, I mean there will be, I think, a certain level of people that will just have to deal with not holding their own keys because they're just not ready for that. And they'll just be like, I want to send from my Coinbase bank and this and that. And they'll be fine. Life turns over. There's a new generation of people who'll be more used to that kind of stuff. And, whereas like old people, a lot of times, are better at stashing like cash and precious metals and things like that. Where, younger generations just, I just have my password, and if they get locked out, they lose everything, whereas the Depression era minded people are all, much more on top of that. So then I think there's going to be another level of people who are self-custody minded in the modern sense of the word, But it is a constantly evolving place. And that reminds me of the whole double spend and 51% of tax stuff. Have you been keeping up on that?
You sent me the article and I read it kind of briefly. I
Hmm.
read, actually, you sent me two on double spend. And so I
Yeah.
read them, but you're going to have to lead here.
Yeah. So for most people watching, probably have heard of a double spend, but basically, it's I send you money, and then I send the same money back to myself, and then the transaction to me ends up confirming, and the one to you doesn't, and so you already give me, the smoothie or whatever I tried to buy, and I get it for free because I just defrauded you. That's kind of how it
Right.
works. In Bitcoin, it's a lot easier because of a thing called replace by fee, where I can send you some money, get stuck, and then I just resend it, but with a higher fee, and then it gets unstuck. And so that doesn't didn't used to be the case in Bitcoin. It doesn't exist in Bitcoin Cash or Dash or a bunch of coins like that, and that just makes it a lot easier to get stuff unstuck. But basically, what happened is someone tried to send a transaction. They It didn't work because they had too low of a fee, and then they're like, all right, I'm going to resend it. I'm going to push it through with the higher fee.
Yeah, like the
Hmm.
child carries the parent or something. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
done it before.
they tried to do that, and then that didn't work, and then they did a third time with like a higher fee, and that didn't end up working because the blocks that those were in didn't end up getting mined, and the first one got mined, and so it went in an opposite a different direction that the more recent ones weren't expected to do. People, it is much ado about nothing, I will say, because a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's a double spend people stole," and a lot of people are like, "That's just FUD. You just hate Bitcoin," and it's like, nah, it's not kind of in between. I think it's just first off, like, can we think about that from a UX perspective, user experience? Of I send you money. A day later, it doesn't get there. So I send it to you again with more money. It doesn't work. I send
Mhm.
you a third time. By this time, I'm like moved on from the original transaction, and then the original one goes through. What? Like, how is that a thing we're okay with? that
Yeah.
level of functionality.
Yeah, I don't see the whole we touched on it earlier, but the
Mm-hmm.
whole maximalism and
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is king thing, even for people who aren't maximalists, is like very, very much media manipulation, not just through crypto media, but through social media as well. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much social pressure to say positive things about Bitcoin and only positive things about
Yeah.
Bitcoin. You have to, you must know that more than I do, where
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's not just peer pressure, and then it's like ingrained in people because they don't want to be outcast from it. It very much is like Bitcoin is a cult, like, and even people who say that they're not a part of Bitcoin cult will adopt maximalist or cultish behaviors and perceptions of other people and other coins without even realizing that they've done it. It's bad.
Yeah. I've definitely seen that happen, and I think that especially with Bitcoin, there's a lot of there's a certain subset of people that are very like crypto general, like, oh yeah, this project, that project, I like that one, but they always have to say good things about Bitcoin because they still are in this mindset of this is how we move the space forward. We got to just be a good team player and promote this thing, and that's what I did when I was living off of Bitcoin, and then eventually stopped working, and I went through a few years of just not having a lot of nice things to say about it because of objective things that have happened, and I'm kind of like reestablished in it where I understand its importance even today as like moving the space forward and how so many things are based off of it and how all this kind of stuff, and at the same time people get mad at me because I say, you can't not say the truth. You can't say like, oh yeah, but that's fine. Like with this situation, with the double spends, you got to say Bitcoin is still amazing. It still changed the world. It still did all these cool things. It just sucks to send it. Can't you have confidence enough to just say when something sucks?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, this is something that we've talked about before too. It's like,
Mm.
well, yeah, but the Lightning Network is going to work. And sometimes you're like, cool, let me know when it does. It
Yeah.
doesn't work right now. I've been hearing that the Lightning Network was going to work for, a couple of years. And then you asked me what I knew about Lightning, and I kind of sent you a little bit. Did you look into that?
Yeah, I did look into it. In fact, I got some Bitcoin in a Lightning wallet. Shout out to Phoenix Wallet for making one of the best Lightning wallets on the market. I also use Breeze, and I have to say the user experience is a lot better than I thought. It's still far from where it needs to be, I think. Like, for example, when I'm moving, people who don't use Bitcoin won't understand this because there's at least three different address formats for Bitcoin right now. And so, and not all wallets can send to all of those. There's like regular, there's some sort of like a halfway SegWit one, which I don't even understand what that's for. And there's like a full SegWit one. And then it's just like, all right, you got all those. And then you, in order to receive the Lightning, you have to receive the, like the SegWit thingy address. And then you got to send to a completely different address format, which by the way is just like giant. Like it takes up so much text. Like I tried to copy and paste and send it to, I tried to copy and paste into on a Twitter, into a tweet, but it exceeded the character limit, like the Lightning invoice size. I just couldn't do it. And then I had a bunch of failed payments because like I wasn't online or they weren't online and stuff. I had some succeed, some went through pretty much right away. But just a few things like when I tried to finally move Lightning from one wallet to another, and because I added both because I was testing them out, I'm like, I'm going to just consolidate. So I tried to move, and I can't, you know, the send all function that you do in normal wallets, we just clean out the wallet. You just move everything minus the fee that you need. You can't really do that with Lightning yet, at least not the way it works now, because like I tried to say, like I saw some things were like moved for like a couple of sats, and I'm like, oh, a couple satoshis is okay. So I'll move everything except a couple satoshis, and so then it goes and it tries and it fails, and then it's like can't. Okay, so I increase to like 10 satoshis, so then it goes, it tries for 2, fails, tries for 4, it fails, tries for 8, it fails, tries for 10, it fails. I'm like, what? So then I ended up having to leave like 50, and it goes tries. Oh, it goes through. Like after like 10 seconds, it goes through, but then it left like 30 behind, and I'm like, how do I get those out now? And it's like
Wait.
they haven't figured that part out yet. And I did, you know, shout out to Bitrefill, which by the way, I do. If you do use Bitrefill to live on crypto, if you use the code DCN, I get some money from that. Just throwing that out there real quick. But I loaded up some Bitrefill stuff with the remaining Lightning, and it worked pretty well. But there was a few possible URL kind of things I could send to, and most of them didn't work, but one did work. Also, the Bitcoin.com wallet, which is where I was at a meetup on Wednesday, and someone was trying to pay me back in Lightning because I paid their bill for it because they didn't have the right thing that worked. Again, you know, crypto usage problems.
Yep.
They were using the Bitcoin.com wallet, and they couldn't send to a SegWit address because I think that, you know, Roger's company does not want to support SegWit. So now I couldn't take it into Lightning, so I would have had to take it into my own like regular legacy address and then move it into Lightning, and so that would have been like $10 in fees for like the total. And it's a little exhausting. I think if you're in Lightning and you're in the small circle of services that are modern, like not the old wallets where I started like a Electrum wallet with like the Lightning node or whatever, and I tried to open up a channel so I could receive, but it wouldn't work because you need money in a channel to open a channel. And so, but if I don't have money, I'm trying to receive, so I have some in the wallet, but I can't receive without having some. It's like, what? Like, you literally have to send on-chain into the wallet and then open up your channel, and then you can receive Lightning to it. And it's just, I don't, like, this UX will be obfuscated back end at some point, and then it'll just be like, oh, it's always Lightning, and we're always opening channels for you and taking a little bit of fee here, but it's all fine. And then it'll work kind of smoothly, but still your fee is completely variable based on how much you're sending and where in the network topology it goes. And that's just like, that's a user experience nightmare of like, I could pay 1/10 of a cent. Oh wait, this one is like 4 cents, but this one's 1 cent, but this one is like $3. Whoa, where'd that come from? And it just, and you can send, but if it's too much, it might not be able to route. And it just, all this variability is going to be so hard to just erase from the user experience. So ultimately, I'm not bullish on Lightning being what people use to send Bitcoin with. in a
Do you think
nutshell.
that people will use something else, or just that they'll transact in something that's easier?
So, first off, the crypto universe is so huge now, and
Hmm.
you don't need Bitcoin anymore. And that's the thing is, I think that the world would be in for a shock if Bitcoin disappeared tomorrow. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Even with the rest of the coins out there, it'd be a giant like tanking of stuff. And oh, what do we have to? People would look to a new thing for whatever. And I think it could survive though. I think more importantly, people will start to use other coins, and it'll become, they'll use the things that work, and then Bitcoin will be what moves from big thing to big thing. Or there'll be a lot of people with like balances on things. So for example, let's use the example of Bitrefill again. Bitrefill still, for the most part, has people spending Bitcoin there, even though they accept a whole bunch of different coins. And the reason for that is, so if I want to buy, a $5 smoothie or whatever from a place, I can, using Dash, for example, because that works instantly on Bitrefill, buy a $5 gift card while I'm in line and scan it. Boop, it's done. What you can also do with Bitrefill, though, is put like $500 worth of Bitcoin into a Bitrefill account balance and then just buy your $5 gift card at a time from that. So you don't actually have to deal with Bitcoin's on-chain problems. And then, they pay you in Satoshis or where they pay you like rewards and stuff in Bitcoin that then later you can just convert right into gift card balances. So there's like a lot of systems like that where you're not going to have to actually move the stuff around on chain. Now, decentralized exchanges is where that's going to become very interesting. Have you used the new?
Changes were on our list.
Yes, that's not that was actually a completely organic transition, I have to
Okay.
say. So this is another one of those things. Shapeshift. Have you used the new Shapeshift app?
I have, yes.
Have you used it successfully?
You know what? So I think, did not use Shapeshift within MetaMask. That's a different thing, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have, what is it? I'll just like, I'm not a baller. This is what I got. I got like $80.53 worth of Ampleforth basic attention token and Ethereum, right? I
Okay.
have $16 worth of Ethereum.
Is that all from Publish Zero
I
X?
think so, yes.
Okay.
Which is nice.
That's gotta be Publish OX. Yeah.
Yeah. And however, I can't do anything with these because the $16 worth of Ethereum is not enough to do even one of those trades over. And so if I
Hmm.
switch two of those trades over, let's say it's 20 times $20 each, it would be like $40 fee. So I'd lose half my money just making it all into Ethereum like I wanted.
Yeah.
How is that usable?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're transacting in really large amounts, but I have noticed in general when you try to use, and I've done it before, where later I was like, how did I just lose $200 of value? Like, what?
Oof.
What? And then, like, I didn't realize that, there were these massive fees because Changelly or Change Angel or whatever it is that does the switching within the
Mm-hmm.
wallet just kills you.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what's going to happen to resolve that, but I do know that some decentralized exchanges, like there's one built on Matic right now
Mm-hmm.
that's called Quick Swap,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes the fees from Uniswap Ethereum fees to pennies.
Mm. How does it do it? Do you know?
It's built on Matic, so I'm not exactly sure of how it technically works, but that's something that I'm kind of looking into right now. I'm also curious about how it's going to work with liquidity, but I suppose that it will work
Hmm.
if enough people use it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is with centralized exchanges, you can have a good user experience. You just, I'm gonna like PayPal. I'm gonna buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin, all kinds of coins, and moving around, and it doesn't matter because they don't let you withdraw anyway. Because you're not actually buying crypto; you're buying like stake in crypto they allegedly have or something at this point.
Right.
And same
Mhm.
thing with centralized exchanges. You can just put in your bank details and go buy Bitcoin. Oh, I bought Bitcoin. It's so great. Oh, I got $10 more. Every week I'm going to buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. Boom, 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 boom. And then you're just like, I have all this Bitcoin. Wow, it went up. I'm rich. I'm going to sell like $1,000 worth of it just to like, and it's going to go into my bank in fiat. I'm going to go swipey, and I'm going to buy a new thing. Oh, this is awesome. They don't realize that no Bitcoin got moved over. There's no Bitcoin got touched. The exchange probably has the Bitcoin. It not necessarily guaranteed, depending on which exchange, which is a little sketchy. Go Mt. Gox territory there, but you don't touch it. Now, decentralized exchanges have to work in either one of two ways. One, you have to actually move the thing. So like an atomic swap type of a thing, where I have, let's say, Litecoin for some reason, and I want to swap it for Decred. And then if there's a little like fee somewhere in there, but then it's just like the Litecoin subcent transaction fee versus the Decred, I assume. I haven't used it. Subset transaction fee. Zip. I have to wait for some confirmations and I got it. It could be like that, but then you do like Ethereum for Bitcoin and you just like destroyed in fees. Or a decentralized exchange could all work on wrapped things, like wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped whatever, in which case you're not actually exchanging the original asset. You're exchanging something that's representative of some of the real assets somewhere. That's where it gets a little bit sketchier. So let's just say like the Matic exchange you're talking about. Let's just say they have like wrapped Bitcoin and Ethereum on there. You could be like, I'm buying Ethereum, I'm buying this, I'm buying that, and you're just almost no fees and swipping and swapping all over the place. But then eventually when you want to have custody over the coin you actually bought, you're going to have to pay that giant transaction fee at some point. So that's going to be, I think it's just going to make people wake up to how bad fees are, to be honest.
Interesting. All right, now I'm going to have to look into how, well, I needed to anyway, but now I'm going to need to know about how exactly it works so that I can report back to you.
Yeah, so what else was going on? Oh yeah, the 51% attacks. Talking about double spends and then 51% attack. This is something that's actually a little bit close to me because Ruben Yap is a friend of mine. He's a project steward for Firo, which used to be called Zcoin. And Zcoin, from my understanding, because I've looked into it about as much as a relatively non-technical person can, they are probably some of the top of the line in terms of privacy in the entire crypto universe. Like the Lelantus thing that they've been pioneering sounds really cool. And I know a few other projects, like I believe Beam already implemented Lelantus after seeing it. And I think that, I can't remember for sure, but I heard some rumor that the Monero team was going to be looking into that as well, or they were impressed, or there were something positive. So basically, Zcoin / now Firo is, top of the line. Unfortunately, they got 51% attacked, and a bunch of transfers to exchanges got reverted, and that's a very sad thing. Now, in all fairness, it's not really their fault because they were being very proactive. They weren't 51% attacked before, as far as I know, but they implemented a little thing called chain locks because they have a Mastodon network, which was, taken after the Dash Mastodon network. And the Dash Mastodon network has this thing called chain locks, which essentially makes every block permanent as soon as it comes out. So then you only need one confirmation for it to be irreversible. You can't attack the chain anymore. And they implemented chain locks, except it was on testnet. They hadn't finished implementing it. So just before they became impervious to 51% attacks, they got 51% attacked, which is really sad. And I think we're going to see this in a lot of coins in the future. It's not just going to be, Ethereum Classic or Bitcoin Gold or things people don't care about. No offense to those projects, but come on. But I think it's going to start to happen to a lot of things. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I really am more involved and interested in proof of stake coins concept. So 51% attacks. It's like, I don't know, outside of my realm of understanding.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's kind of interesting because proof of work and proof of stake are very similar, very different in that with proof of work, you basically have to put a lot of hash power, a lot of energy and resources, and that secures the network. Whereas with proof of stake, you put a lot of money instead, and that secures the network. And there's a couple of proof of work is easier to attack in terms of brute force, in terms of according to the way it works. Like when Firo was attacked, there was no bug or exploit. It was just more hash power. And that's really hard to do in proof of stake because you have to actually have the funds. But proof of stake, from my understanding, is easier to, depending on the implementation, of course, but it's easier to exploit with like actual like hacks and stuff. So there have been a few that have happened in the past. Like one had like a node that, I forget what they called this one, but it sent a bunch of like requests for blocks to all the nodes and overloaded their RAM and caused them all to crash. And then all of a sudden, if you just have like 10% of the network, you could just attack the whole thing, because even though you didn't have all that money, you could just crash everyone else that did that. There's also some bugs that I think were in like PIVX and a few other things like that. PIVX is just the name that I remembered that had it. It was a lot of these coins where I could take, say, 1,000 units that's enough to stake. And I set up a node, basically I start staking with 1,000. But then I move it to a new address and I start staking with that one too. But the other one doesn't get that I moved the collateral. So I basically copy it and am able to instead of like having to have half of the funds of the entire coin supply in order to attack it, which makes proof of stake so hard to attack, now you could just like have like say 10% and then just copy it like 5 times over, just move it around and then do an exploit. And they fixed that as well. But yeah, it's a whole different ballgame of like attacks you could do. But 51% attacks on proof of work chains it's not like a bug or an exploit. It's just you can do it. That's what makes it, I think, you're not going to be like you're going to sneak around and find a little exploit here. It's just someone's going to be like, I'm going to take this money. Mm-hmm. It's going to be that simple.
Yeah, I mean, if you could take the money, then you would, right?
Yeah. Specifically reverse transactions, which means, exchanges can just, you trade on an exchange and move it out, but then you just reverse the stuff, which is going to be interesting because for no KYC dexes and stuff, like what if you do a proper trade? You trade, say in this case, some Firo for something else. Again, not going to be possible in like a few days when they activate chain locks on mainnet, but let's talk about the past. You could just trade it for, Bitcoin or something. And then you get the Bitcoin, whoever else got the Firo on the other end, but then the Firo gets like revoked by rolling back the network. And then now you still have both. And there's no one to go to because they don't even know who you are. It's going to be ridiculous.
You think so? I think that's going to be a big thing?
Yeah. And the worst thing is, I mean, you've seen the hash rates of Bitcoin and its children are so different. And it's the same algorithm, which means one of the lesser BTC miners can just decide to completely reverse every transaction on Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV at any point. Mm-hmm. And they just don't, because I guess they're a tight-knit community, and they also mine those chains when BTC isn't as profitable. They bounce along them. There's a bunch of reasons they don't, but they can. Can you imagine it's like, having a pet tiger that's just hanging around. You're just like, oh, he's a nice kitty. Look at him. Oh, he knows he gets fed. But eventually he might just like whack you and you can't do anything about it. It's a little scary.
Yeah, no, I think that's the main argument against using one of Bitcoin's children, right?
Yeah, or you should, I would say, change the actual hashing algorithm to something so you're the top coin. So anyone who has invested infrastructure into it is only shooting themselves in the foot. If they're only destroying their own investment. Whereas, if you're a big Bitcoin miner, you might say, oh, I'll kill these children off. And then I'm going to which sounds kind of creepy to say out loud, to be honest. But, I'll just whack off those, I'll just get rid of those lesser ones that are called Bitcoin. And then my Bitcoin mining thing will be more profitable. So it could be something like that. Mm-hmm. What else were we talking about?
BlackRock. Yeah, BlackRock. Yeah. BlackRock saying that they may get into Bitcoin futures, which I think a lot of people think is really like bullish. But do you remember what happened when Bitcoin futures were introduced? That was not net positive.
Yeah. Could be the same thing. I mean, the thing is, as a whole, And this is not necessarily like my biggest expertise, but it seems like the more money you have involved invested in the space, especially in the bigger level, the more it ends up benefiting the space. So if
Mhm.
yet another thing introduces Bitcoin futures, that the more activity on the price tends to make it more, stable. It's kind of like the more weight. It's kind of like if you're driving in an icy climate and your car is heavy. If it goes out, it could still spin out, but like being light makes it a lot more, slippy slidey around. Having a heavy car kind of goes through the snow better and stuff. So the heavier the action on these kinds of coins, I think that'll be a net positive.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it just, BlackRock has how many trillion dollars assets under management? Like they could buy all of crypto's market cap. Doesn't that mean that it will be excessively easy to manipulate? And I think that there was something specifically in here about regulatory changes or actions may alter the nature of an investment in Bitcoin futures or restrict the use of Bitcoin or the operations of the Bitcoin network or exchanges on which Bitcoin trades in a manner that adversely affects the price of Bitcoin futures, which
Hmm.
could adversely impact a fund.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see once you have like whales splashing around. And that's one of those biggest problems when people are doing pure number go up for crypto is
Yeah.
number could do anything. And if you're just like, oh, if it's going to go up, that's what I care. And then people dump it to anything. And then all of a sudden your value proposition for this awesome technology is just like shakier. That could be a big problem. And like, because some people, if it's like useful, they can buy some and then just use it, and then as long as the price doesn't fluctuate too much in the interim, they profited from using the money. Like say they're going to spend 20% on a remittance or something, but if they manage to do it with a crypto that works for that, all the time and savings and stuff, even if it crashes 5% in that time, they still made money. And then you'll have people constantly buying and using the asset and stabilizing the price despite that. And so that's really what we can do if we're worried about this kind of manipulation, is try to get something that's very useful for non-speculative reasons and have people keep on going in. And that's another thing with like the store of value use case, as not a as opposed to just number go up, as like fiat number go down use case, because then people will keep on buying whether or not it goes up in the short term, and that that kind of will help stabilize things out a little bit. So I'm hopeful for that kind of stuff. But yeah, another big whale splashing around with this stuff is always something to watch out for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of something that I was concerned about just because the level of manipulation is, like really, we're rooting for this. Yeah,
Yeah,
we are.
well, it might just be because it's an eventuality, like if they're already in all
Mhm.
other assets, eventually they're going to be involved in whatever. It's kind of like when people, like, how long is it going to be until governments get involved in crypto directly and not just, oh, seized a bunch of Bitcoin from an illicit trade or something? But like,
Yeah.
how, what happens when, for example, the People's Republic of China decides to nationalize the mining industry? Just say, we control it
Mhm.
now. And the CCP is going to decide what transactions go into which mining pools and stuff. And then that could be a shakeup. What happens if like half the supply of Ethereum gets, bought by the EU states and some big, or the European Central Bank or something like that? Like what's going to happen then? And that's when the rubber hits the road as far as like crypto and decentralization and things is, first off, is it designed in a way that you can't just like own a bunch of it and then cut off usage and stuff like that? And also, how many products you have, like how resilient are you really to this kind of a thing? That'll be very fascinating to see.
Any speculation on when you think that's going to happen?
As far as government involvement,
Yeah.
probably in the past, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I mean, like publicly.
I'm gonna say within 5 years, which sounds like a long time, but it goes by really fast. I mean, they're already like talking about central bank coins, and they're also talking about. I believe there was some regulation that got updated in the U.S. to basically allow banks to settle transactions on decentralized
Yep.
networks, like non-closed ones, open networks. And it's like, all right, now that they can, if they can profit from it, then they will. And that's like, government sanctioned institutions basically using just random decentralized coins to settle things. And okay, now it's going to be pretty soon when you have like the Federal Reserve or whatever buying up a lot of crypto. Do you think the Fed won't buy the dip, for example? It might be as soon as this next dip coming in 2022 to 23, maybe. The big,
Yeah.
after the big whoosh goes up, just buy it all up while everyone's selling. And then, like, as the printer go burr, they pump their own holding that they have in the meantime. Because, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really think they're dumb enough to just go bust. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though
Yeah. No.
they're doing all that kind of stuff to go bust. Which reminds me, I have a couple things in the live chat here. Who manipulated the 2017 altcoin market? First off, I'll let you have a crack at this. What do you think?
So, I mean, 2017 was largely retail, wasn't it? But then it was
Hmm.
Tether.
Yeah, a lot of Tether. So
Yeah.
Tether could be the answer. Also, 2017 coincided with a couple of interesting things. First off, when the market's on the up and up, people are much less fearful, and when they're less fearful and risk averse, they tend to buy more risky assets, which are the alt sector rather than Bitcoin. And so a lot of that money goes into altcoins, as it were. And so that's a big part. It's just a giant run up, and a lot of that. It was also coincided with the giant ICO boom, where before it was like, I guess, like the shitcoin boom, where everyone had like a oh, Dogecoin and Ron Paul coin and Houdini Donkey coin or whatever, just
The main point.
whatever it was. But now it's like ICO, like, oh, this could be a company, but really I'm just gambling on the token. That thing went huge. And the third thing coincided with, of course, was Bitcoin scaling problems. And just all of a sudden people just dumped into Ethereum and other things. So you saw, like, if you look at the Bitcoin dominance chart over the years, I think it was like 85 or 88%, or it was really high. It was always on a slow down trend, which is just the natural evolution of the space. You got a big industry leader, and then new things get created over time, and it just kind of diversifies the whole thing out. And then, of course, it's just naturally going to trend downwards, right? But then all of a sudden, 2017, the bottom fell out. So, whoomp, dominance factor went down to like the 30s. It went way down. And then since then, Bitcoin's dominance factor has been going up. And right now, it about hit the trend line again, the slow down trend. So it's probably going
Hmm.
to keep on going down at that slow rate, but it really lost the bottom when everyone's like, "Oh, I can't use this stuff. This is terrible." And then since then, the network hasn't really improved, but people have improved around using it. Like exchanges started batching transactions more, and people have started just leaving stuff on exchanges, or they buy from Coinbase and then they use pay with Coinbase when they buy a thing, so it doesn't actually have to move on chain and stuff like that. There's been a lot of this sort of stuff that have allowed more people to be involved in crypto in general, and specifically in Bitcoin, without triggering the awful experience of using Bitcoin. So I think those three together really affected it as well. Of course, Danish Crypto says, "It was me, only me, wahahaha." That's funny. Yeah, he says, "Yeah, you're right. CZ and the USDT gang." Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing. We've been going on a long time, so I'll probably wrap it up right after that. But the Tether thing was a freaky thing for a while. In the
Hmm.
early days, I didn't understand what Tether was. I was like, why do you want a coin that's worth $1? Like, why don't you just use dollars? Then I realized, oh, it's because it's unregulated. People are using this to trade and get out of regulation on that. And then there was a while in like 2018, mostly 2018, 2019, when I got pretty worried because I started hearing all this stuff about, oh yeah, Tether just printing more tethers, and they're not, they haven't had a full audit yet, and there's rumors that this and that, and oh, they say that it could possibly be backed by dollars, but not entirely. And I'm like, oh shit. Once I heard that, I'm like, this is handwriting on the wall. This is awful. And then they start saying it could include Bitcoin. So they could literally print tethers to buy Bitcoin, and then that the Bitcoin's backing the tethers. And it's like all this crazy manipulative stuff. And I was just, at one point I was freaking out. Like, I don't care if like number goes up down too much. But at some point, like if Tether went away and I just saw like most of the trading volume of crypto, Tether, that's all. And I'm just like, oh no, if this thing crashes, all the coins are going way down and some won't survive. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I won't have any purchasing power on my crypto forever. And I'll just have to like, find other ways of like scratching together some stuff. And yeah, I was genuinely, honestly worried. So I have to say, I'm not more confident in Tether today. I just think that the space has diversified out to the point where if Tether collapses, the whole market's not going to be destroyed. It's probably going to go way down, but it's not going to be completely destroyed. Oh, I just got 1 million. Because it's an actual fiat bank for someone who can't have a U.S. currency account. That's right. Thanks, Hilawi. Weird stuff says crypto. Okay. CZ actually created his empire with Tether since he didn't need banks that would shut him down. That's true. And like Binance is a giant player in the space. Because do you believe that they have a amount of money in the bank they printed out? Only stablecoin you can trust is DAI since it's backed by something real. Yeah, I don't know. Like I heard DAI, like I guess I trust DAI more than anything as far as a stablecoin, but I don't really trust stablecoins in general. Because first off, the underlying thing they're pegged to, the dollar, can just be infinitely printed, and that value. It's just like, why are you holding on to an asset that mimics a crashing price? Yeah. It's a little goofy. I understand it's useful.
Have you've heard of Haven, right?
Now which Haven? Because Haven was what they called Open Bazaar's mobile store.
Not Open Bazaar, XHV. So built on top of Monero.
I have heard it mentioned, but I'm completely ignorant about it. Why don't you enlighten me real quick?
Okay, well, I think that in terms of stable coins, it's really interesting because I was like kind of looking for a stable coin that was not, you can't really be backed by gold because it just doesn't work, but like based, that had tethered to the price of gold. And then I found and that was also private, and then I ended up finding Haven Protocol, which is they have several different backing pairs. It's like XHV BTC, XHV USD, XHV Gold. And I think that you should look into it. I think that like it's technologically interesting, and I don't know.
So it runs on the Monero network. It's like a Monero token.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is it also completely private?
Yes, private by default.
So that's another interesting thing, especially when you start to interact with like pairings and things like that, because one of the problems that every encrypted coin has is every encrypted coin could have had an inflation bug at some juncture in its creation. And so, for example, if you look at Bitcoin, you know how many Bitcoins out there. Right. You don't necessarily know how much Monero exists. You know how much you think exists, but there could be 10 times the supply or more just out there and no one knows about. And that's one of those things with, especially with like a token layer and stuff too. It's an inherent trade-off, which isn't, saying it's like not good. It's an inherent trade-off between the complete privacy of whatever you're creating and actually being able to trust the limited supply. So it's possible that, let's just say you use like Haven to print out like $3 million worth of something, and all that $3 million is associated with and backed by a similar asset. And there could also be 30 extra million that has no backing that's created that you don't know about, that's kind of unaccounted for. And
Mhm.
so that's something that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I will definitely look into that. It's fascinating all the things people are building on all these different networks, and just like radical transparency has had its own issues where you can blacklist some addresses and things like that, or oh, it's mixed coins, we won't take those, or there's some. It's very fascinating to see how the whole space shakes out with that whole thing. Let me just go through the live chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything really big. Talk about stablecoins such as DAI. God, this is a fun one. Stablecoins pegged to a worthless dollar. Yeah. The last thing I'll say on the stablecoin subject, and then I guess we wrap it up, is stablecoins pegged to a purchasing power metric would be really nice, because stablecoins pegged to a fiat currency, I don't know how that's ever really going to work out long term, or it is going to work out, but it works out by having your purchasing power go down year after year, or just in the course of a year. This last year, I went and got, like last January or something, I got a haircut at Supercuts. I'm sorry, I'm cheap, whatever. And it was like $16, right? And then later in the year, I noticed it was $18, and by the end of the year, it was $20. So 4 out of 16, 2 out of 8, 25% price increase in the course of a 12-month calendar year. And that's your stable coin, is you lose 25% of your purchasing power if you hold it for a year, at least the way things are going today. That's a very anecdotal example, but there's been a lot more dollars been printed than that, actually. And so I would love there to be a stable coin that was pegged to something that's not going down in value. What do you think? What are some of the examples you could think of things you could peg it to that's not a fiat currency?
So yeah, actually, I learned about, hang on, let me see if I can find this. I learned about something today that was really interesting. And what is it? So Base Protocol, have you heard of it?
Base, BASE?
Yeah, BASE. And it's like it's pegged, it's a token that you can buy if you want to speculate on the overall market cap of crypto instead of holding, one or two assets. So it's actually pegged to, and it's got, elasticity. So it's actually pegged to cryptocurrency's market cap. I think that is really interesting for a number of reasons.
So it's pegged to the crypto market cap as a whole, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's basically an internal to crypto stable coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a great trading mechanism, because that has been Bitcoin's role, because a lot of people view Bitcoin as the thing, like the thing that's going to go up in value, and all the other things are the fun money. And so you take Bitcoin, you trade it for Dash, you trade it for Zcash, you trade it for Hex, right? You do whatever you want, and then when you get,
are you laughing?
People definitely like the people like to shit on Hex, but it's basically you make a ton of money off of Hex, and then you sell half and put it back into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like how you track your profits, because you can't do it in USD terms, because you're like, oh, all my trades are going up, everything's doing well because the dollar's crashing,
Yeah.
But with Bitcoin, that is like the stable coin of the crypto as far as it's been seen in the past. But it is its own asset at the same time. So I do like that idea of like, there's like Bitcoin and then there's the alt sector and individual things. And it's like, you can't just track your gains in BTC, because BTC could be doing phenomenally well or could be doing phenomenally poorly compared to the rest of the field. And so that is a fascinating thing to keep track of. Of course, the crypto markets are just boom, 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 boom right now. And I think that in a world like right now, crypto is a lot more volatile than fiat. Because like what did the dollar, let's just say, according to my anecdotal evidence of the dollar losing 25% of its purchasing power over the course of a year, which I'm sure it was more, but whatever. Let's just say 25%. 25%, Bitcoin lost like that over like a few days. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, I think that, I think that the concept of having something that's tied to cryptocurrency's overall market cap is like just, I don't know, really interesting for a number of reasons. I think I already said that.
yeah.
I think you should look at it.
Yes, I definitely will. It'll be interesting when the dollar becomes more volatile. Or the fiat basket, let's just say dollar, euro, yen, whatever, pound, all those things become equally volatile or more volatile to just the crypto index in general. And then it'll be really valuable to have like the crypto index coin. Crypto index coins. That doesn't really roll off the tongue though, does it?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll have to come up with something.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap this whole thing up, I had some requests about, because you're known from the Hex community, about doing the Hex thing. To do her Hex thing she does on Twitter. But so that's a good excuse to talk about. So I see you do like crypto TikToks, right? And are you still on the TikTok hustle?
Yeah, I mean, I just make them because I think that they're funny and it amuses me to make them. That's
Yeah.
really why I do it. I think it started with I made a Bitcoin one. I was making fun of Bitcoin Twitter, and then and then the Hex community actually paid me to make one, and then at the same time they had paid me in Hex, and then Richard made a contest, and I was like, oh, I can get paid double. So I made a Hex TikTok. I made an Ethereum one yesterday. I've made a Link one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're TikToker for hire, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why not?
Yeah. It is funny because it's one of those elements. These things have come out in like the last couple of years, especially, where crypto is now becoming a group of curmudgeons. Back in my day, you can mine off your laptop or that kind of stuff. And then anytime there's like any kind of a nerdy, and of course, Nerd Girl 007 is your famous handle. But anytime there's like a nerdy thing, people get pissed off and they resist any kind of normalcy or like just not that. And so it has been funny because like I'm trying to think of some of the major examples. Like first off, people got so mad at Crypto Finally. Shout out to Crypto Finally, right? For becoming like a crypto expert on MTV or something, which I mean, is there a stronger way of saying not investment advice than MTV? Like,
yeah,
that's already pretty ridiculous. And then what was the other one? The cringiest video of the year was a bunch of people like Johnny Litecoin and Rice Crypto. Shout out to Rice, my bro, and Miss Teen Crypto, and a bunch of people like that doing this whole like walk by the camera.
yeah. In front of that Digibyte by Bitcoin Ben and Ken.
Yeah, and admittedly, like, not gonna mince words, is probably the cringiest thing I've seen in most of my adult life, but that's okay. Right? It was pretty cringe. Like,
you think it's cringier than my TikToks? Maybe.
Yes, for a couple of reasons. First off, the TikToks had that like fun tongue-in-cheek kind of attitude, and it was clearly like more of like a parody in and of itself, and it just like it wasn't like as serious as like with our powers combined, I am Captain Planet, like that whole vibe of that was. Again, we've all done some cringy things in our lives, and it's just like if it gets new people, but so many people didn't just make fun of it for being cringy, which is fine. You can make fun of things all the time, right? But it just a lot of people got mad at it, like, oh, they're sullying this holy word of Bitcoin and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and then of course my friend Leia also does this she does those Bitcoin TikToks and stuff, and all that kind of stuff, and like, I'm probably too boomer to really be the audience for that, but if it's successful, I mean, you get tons of views on that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So most of my like I don't even have tons of followers on
Hmm.
TikTok. I only have like 100 followers, but I just use TikTok for the editing skill, for the editing features because it is really easy to just shoot little clippy videos and piece them together and then they get a lot of views on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly where you put it. So you're NRDGRL 007 on both of those, right? Or are you different on TikTok?
No, on every social media platform.
Yes, same as me with the desert links everywhere or by my name sometimes, but they don't let that. So that's where people can go chase you down, and your DMs are open for blatant TikTok shilling contracts, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, I can't make a million TikTok. I guess I could, but yeah, my DMs are open
Yeah, like I'm sure
for business inquiries.
for business inquiries. Yeah, and like not, you know,
Yeah.
bottom of the barrel scraping the thing of like,
Also, like, hello, dear is a really weird way to approach someone. Also, just hello? Why?
hello. It's like
Right. Do you think I'm going to
block.
respond?
Yes, that's like instantly. It's like you could say hi, how are you, but then follow up with what you're talking about. Otherwise, it's just like another sock puppet or person from a country that they don't have any source of income and they're going to try to like talk to you into doing
Hmm.
something. So
Hmm.
it is what it is. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's wrap this up. You could find Nicole's work, nerd girl, rather. You took away the vowels, so you have to grunt through it. Nerd girl. Uh,
Hmm.
on Twitter and TikTok. Where else could people find about the stuff you do?
Instagram, YouTube, Publish Zero X, I think is like
Are you on
really.
there?
Yeah, I'm on
Nice.
there. I've been writing on there ever since I wrote that Bitcoin Cash article that like generated quite a bit of buzz. I was like, oh, I should probably be posting these on a platform where I can get paid.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So Publish Zero X. I'll have an article coming out. I'm finishing it up right now, but I got this contract to do an article for Goldstein, which will be
Mm,
really excited about it.
that'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last little comment I just saw in here. We're talking about the normies starting to come in. Is oh yeah, that Brie Fit dance girl. Do you remember
Yeah.
that one? Wait,
Yeah.
it's again, it's not my thing necessarily, but it's just so funny
Mhm.
how first off, how many thirsty dudes were all over that thing, and then on a second level, how many people got so mad at it? They're like, "This sucks. This is terrible. This is ruining it." And it's just like someone goes, "Bitcoin, Bitcoin," and like, what that is as fragile as you are. It's kind of like how fragile are the Bitcoin core developers to just hear from Craig Wright and take the paper down right away. It's like how
Yeah.
fragile is your conception of cryptocurrency that someone going is like going to make you think it all got ruined.
Yeah, no, it was really strange. And then also that everyone was like pissed off sharing that. It's like, do you not understand that what you're doing is, sharing content that you believe is, ruining the space that you
Yeah.
love?
That could have been an
Yeah.
alibi, to be fair. People could have just thought, like, oh, this is good. I'm going to share it, but like pretend to be outraged so I don't lose my nerd credit.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. But I do think that it comes from someplace, and I think that it maybe is Andreas Antonopoulos and his like, disapproval of women using their women using sex appeal to sell products. For instance, he has to be blocked.
Did he say that actually?
Yeah, I guess he has. I didn't realize that before, but he has apparently talked about his disapproval of women using sex appeal to sell products and specifically financial services products like cryptocurrency.
Ooh, I mean, I understand not thinking that's smart or good for the space or whatever, having an opinion, but have that like hard line about it is like, you know, old man yells at boobs. Like that's never going to
Like,
work. That's
I
never
was
going
like,
to
okay,
work.
yeah.
It's just that's against the way people are programmed. But I have not yet been blocked by him, but I did get into a discussion with him the other day on Twitter when he was saying, "Oh, Lightning's great," and I always said like, it's come a long way. I had these UX problems when I used it, and they said then you said something like your experience is your anecdotal experience means nothing or something like that. I'm like, all right, dude. And he's a little. Willing to give him the benefit of the doubt of just being on a short string, kind of like a short fuse, because maxis, some of them hate him, non-maxis hate him. Everyone's just kind of. A lot of people love him. A lot of people kind of hate him, and it gets tiring over time when you're like the guy on Twitter. Everything one thinks they can yell at. So, which to be fair, could be either of us someday, or it could be you already, probably. Although I think the hate you get is more directed towards specific things rather than just like, who am I going to yell on Twitter at today? Oh, pick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I don't actually get it. I don't think that I get it as bad as the other girls, to be honest. But
yeah, maybe it's because I don't know. A lot of anger is directed against people that don't have qualifications or whatever, and just the whole like PhD dropout thingy could, it could have spared you some of that stuff. But
it could have. And also, I'm always nice to everyone, even when they're mean to me, so that might help.
Yeah, well, it could. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. Follow Nicole or Nergal007 anywhere she's at. And also, if you're watching this, you please hit the like button right now. Hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is where you're watching this, by the end of the month, which would be my 1-year anniversary of doing this stuff, which not all of that was on YouTube. So be fair on that. But yeah, make sure to subscribe, especially on LBRY/Odysee. Throw me some money if you like me. If you don't throw me some money, I'll know you hate me and I'll cry myself to sleep. And yeah, it's time to play the outro graphic. Bye, everybody, and see you next week.